That's right. All about home construction here on Saturday mornings. Thanks for listening to us. And good morning, Randy.
Morning, Terry. And everybody out there.
That's right. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. And it looks like, well, I can't tell you what it's going to be like in 2 weeks.
That's right. Zoom recording, trying it out. And so we can get moving more on the podcast and open up some of our listeners as well as some of our visitors on the show.
So we can actually have people communicate with us during the week.
That's right. So that's
from different parts of the United States.
Yep. So we're trying to move on up in the world here on All About Home Construction. And but first of all, we really appreciate all of our listeners, whether it's on WATA or on the podcast. So thank you both so much. And don't forget, you can share this with friends. You can tell friends to listen to us. And if you're listening live on WATA and you want to come back and catch what we said, or maybe you missed something, or just want to go back on some old shows, you can go into wherever you find podcasts, type in All About Home Construction, tell your smart speaker to play All About Home Construction. And now you can find us on YouTube, Randy.
That's right. And on Saturday mornings, you can call us at 828-262-1567 between 8 and 9 o'clock.
There you go. And you know what? I even got one more for you. If they really want to, if they go to our Spotify website, and I'll put the links for those on podcasts in the show notes. So if you're not local in Boone, you can go to the Spotify account and you can actually leave us a voicemail there.
Yep. And, or leave us on Facebook.
Yeah.
I put it on Facebook this last week, our, radio station number.
That's right. So Facebook's like an easy place because everyone's like kind of on Facebook already. So Facebook is easy to pass out messages and talk back and forth. So anytime you want to shoot us a message on Facebook, you know what? I tell you another interesting thing that we get to do now is as we start to branch out with technology is, you ever been on a job site? And I know you have because you're on job sites all the time. But as a homeowner, right? You may say you're doing a small DIY project, or you've got a construction, something going on, or maybe you're just curious about something. You can actually send us videos or pictures on through take them with your phone, send them to us through your Facebook or email. And that we can kind of see. That's the cool thing. We can get some visuals now of what, maybe what your problem is or what your question is, or maybe something you're proud of.
Yeah. And if you have a question, you can call us or just leave it on Facebook or
whatever's easier for you. Right. That's the cool thing. We're whatever's easy for you. It's easy for us.
So, the IBC code was set up for 50 states. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that means International Building Code.
Right.
Now, there's 13 states that we are reciprocal with that we can answer all the questions. The only things that changes in coastal areas.
Okay.
On the construction methods. My license, if I was to go back and take the test that covers the 13 states, I can work in shucks. I just had it on tip of my tongue, but in the Caribbean.
Puerto Rico.
That's it. Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Now, how often does that get updated? The IBC codes?
2018. So we're looking at in 2024 is a new code book coming out.
Okay. So the other week when you said that you had taken some classes, that was for North Carolina. That wasn't for the IBC.
Correct. That was a North Carolina building code.
Okay.
And that'd be an amendment to it. In the old days, we had a code book and all the pages were white, and then all the amendments would be put in blue.
So you knew what was new and changed, right?
Yeah. So what's happening is the workforce, which we've been talking about it for years, has got down so low that they're trying to take apprentices and allowing the apprentices, when they get their sign off, to start working. They're not working under anybody's license, but small jobs they can take on, like duct work. I mean, like I told you, there's a lot of reading I have to do to understand that.
Sure.
That new law. Sure. And which I did get a call on that other law about $300,000 or 3,000 square feet.
Right.
And I still got a copy of that and send it to a designer.
So that was just to remind everyone, that's where, a designer versus an architect. Is that right?
Correct.
So anything over that, you have to get an actual architect to I guess design it for you or approve it, however you want to look at it.
Correct, because architects they like to draw big stuff.
Right. Right.
They're not going to draw you a garage.
Mhm.
Where most people don't realize that you really need a set of plans on anything that you do to take it to the planning inspections. Used to be you could draw it on a piece of paper, take it in,
Right.
and sometimes they'll accept that if you're doing your own work on your own property. But they would like a set of plans so they can see it and read it. And
Well, and that brings up some things, like modulars or mobile homes, things like that. When you get, I mean, those, you don't really change those plans. You get a set of plans, whatever you pick out. And at that point, you take that plan in because that follows the IBC codes. Does that mean it automatically applies into, here in the high country?
well, when you buy a modular, it's stamped. See, because that modular is designed by HUD, or not designed by HUD, okayed by HUD.
Okay.
Okay, now that's the difference between us contractors and modulars and stuff like that, because they dictate the rules on it. See, we're under a different code. We're under the IBC, so North Carolina dictates what we can do.
Gotcha.
I can't. I have to build a stick frame house to North Carolina's codes. HUD code, one fits all.
Gotcha. Well,
See?
and I guess that's kind of a bad thing here in the mountains because you're sending the same house that's manufactured house, whether it's a mobile home or a modular. You're sending the same one here to the to the beach as you are here to the mountains.
It is, but the thing about it is I went through the whole process a few years ago with a modular, and they wanted to know the altitude. Okay, they wanted to know where it was located, and
Wind
actually
load,
the wind loads.
wind
Yes,
loads. While they were gotcha.
So they actually designed that house to fit in your area.
Gotcha. Okay.
So right here in Boone, see, we're at 130 at 3,300 feet. We're at 130 mile an hour wind zone. Okay. Up on top, up there at the fire tower, see, that's 150-mile wind load. The coast is all 150 mile an hour wind load.
Gotcha. So, well, and that's what I've always been curious about. But but that goes back to the architect versus because a lot of people buy plans online now. There's lots of like generic plans that you can buy on the internet.
Well, I've seen plans like that fail. Okay, because they paid $300 for them, and homeowners wanted to build that house just like the plan called. Okay, and the plan failed because it wasn't. Our wind loads were too high for what was designed.
Right.
And so that leads the contractor into a lot of trouble because he didn't tell the homeowner. Said no, these plans are fine. But now we got to send them to an engineer for proper.
So that's what I was getting ready to ask. So if let's say I buy a set of plans, Randy built his house. There's certain things that you would really have to go through an engineer now to get changed on it. You couldn't just change it yourself.
No,
because it goes against the plans. It's never been approved or never been checked, if you will, with the code.
And but now. Last summer when I went down and built that log cabin in Burke County for the veteran, that was a stamp plan. Okay.
Right.
And so it was stamped. Under the law, I have to build that plan to exactly what they showed. The only thing we changed on it was the winding stairs because we actually took one step out, and I'm allowed to do that.
Okay.
But as far as the structural aspects of it, I was not allowed to change any of the structural.
That makes sense because it's been stamped, right? Like somebody, an architect or an engineer has said, "Hey, this is how this is good. This is going to work," and so that stamp carries.
Yes, approved for construction.
Got you.
And then if the planning inspections wants to, balk about it, then it goes back to them. It don't come back on the contract.
Right. Okay. That's it. That's it. That's cool. Well, tell you what, we'll take our first break. All About Home Construction. We'll come right back right after this. Thanks for listening to us. Obviously, by listening to this podcast, you see the value of All About Home Construction. Well, by joining our listener supporter community, you're not just tuning in, you're standing with us as we are able to support and fuel our passions of the construction industry. As a listener supporter, you'll enjoy exclusive perks, including hearing your name or maybe even your business name on our show. So please go to our Spotify website. The link will be in the show notes and join. You can join for as little as $1 one-time fee, $1 a month, $5 a month, whatever you think you can afford. Every single penny helps to keep this show going as we can continue to grow and do lots more things. Thanks a lot. And again, more importantly, thank you for listening to this. That's right. All About Home Construction here on WATA. And again, thanks to all of our listeners out there. And well, just, whether you're listening to us on WATA or you're listening to us on the podcast, trying some new things out, expanding our reach here on All About Home Construction. Randy, I want to get into the main topic, but first, you had mentioned the IBC codes. One of the things that that I think about on that is really that's a catch-all in terms of safety, right? Because it dictates not only how you build, but doesn't it dictate what you build?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Because, we're getting into a time period where we have tiny houses, and then we have houses that go all the way up to, let's say, 19,000 square foot, like I helped build in Georgia. See? And back then, there wasn't no building codes. They were just what you were taught growing up.
Okay.
So now the IBC code will cover all these aspects. Because if you get to looking at them, they got sections for wind loads. They have sections for headers. Gotcha. They have sections that you talk about load calculations, because the biggest thing that they want to make sure is you carry the loads from the roof all the way to the ground, even on the inside of the house. Okay. And I know you heard me talk about houses that were built out of balance,
right?
Where the loads didn't transfer correctly.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the terminology I use. So when you got a house that's out of balance, now you might have engineering on LVLs or a steel I-beam or something like that to carry that load transferred to a different area.
I'm following you now. Okay. And I guess the last IBC question I have for you is, like, when we follow the IBC code, now now we talk locally and, county codes or state codes even. Those are just on top of the IBC. Is that right? Or
nope.
They're the two separate?
Nope, that's all the codes there is.
Okay.
And the job of the inspector is to make sure you build that house to code. And, most good contractors never build the minimum of code. They build better.
Right. Because that code is just what you said. It's minimum. I mean, that's when you build this and that's the bare minimum you can do to make it pass. So that's as a teacher, I like to associate that with, that's the C paper. You bring it in, you pass. Yep. That passes. It's a C, but that's, if we're living in a house, we don't want to live in a C grade house. We want to live in an A grade house.
Correct. A lot of people, how about if I jump down a rabbit hole?
Go for it.
A lot of people want to frame a house out of 2-bays. Okay. Mm-hmm. Let's say you floor joist, you meet your spans and everything, but then you don't, and it's in a crawl space, but you don't meet the R requirements, and it takes a 2x10 to put an R30 in. Okay.
Right.
Or you're building a cathedral ceiling in your house and you want to use 2x8s for it because the span's not long enough, but it don't meet the 1.5-inch gap for air transfer from the soffit to the ridge. And you can't put R38 insulation in.
Right. So what do you do?
Well, there's trade-offs, okay? And some of the trade-offs are make your framing members bigger so it meets the requirements, or which you've heard me complain about, your framing members are too big to go with the rigid foam, okay?
Right.
Because if you put let's say you build your house out of 2x4s, okay? And 3.5 inches times 6.2 gives you an R value in foam, rigid foam of 21.7. See?
Right.
So that, and the minimum code's R19. So that's how you got to look at it. And one thing North Carolina has done for homeowners, I hope other states have, but the Home Builders Association made sure that you can read the code book online.
Right.
You can't download the book, but you can print segments out of it, sections out of it to help you out. And then if you don't truly understand what you're reading, call your planning inspections office and talk to them about it. And they'll try to lead you in the best,
Gotcha.
because, I've built houses at the coast in the late 70s, early 80s, where our turn down wasn't but 12 inches on a monolithic slab. Nothing wrong with that down there because they're never that cold.
Right.
Okay. Well, up here in the high country, our turn down would have to be 2 foot. So we have to be below the frost.
Right. Well, and that's why we don't see a lot of those monolithic slabs up here.
No. And in the energy code in 2018, and actually it probably goes back to energy code in 2012, where if you're going to do you a basement in your house, you need to put 2 inches of foam against it.
Underneath
your slab.
Right.
And so what they wanted us to do was to put a bevel on the insulation, the 45-degree bevel, so the concrete actually covers it, and it'll have just a small gap there for expansion and contraction. But that's shutting the R value, shutting the cold air from coming through a masonry wall.
Acting essentially as a thermal break, like on the like we do on the side end.
Correct. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. That makes complete sense. And again, it goes back though to what you were saying before. There's a difference when you're building on the coast, where you're building in elevation of 3,000 feet. I couldn't even imagine when you start talking about in the Rockies when you get up to 8,000 plus feet.
Well, there you go. See, now there's another code change there, because now you're dealing with snow loads.
Yep.
Okay, so you might not be going with an R38. You might have to have an R49, and to achieve that, you'd have to go with IBC, not IBC, rafters.
Manufactured, right?
Yeah, or trusses. A lot of people. I'm not a big fan of trusses. Because they're real hard to make energy efficient.
Right.
Well,
so that's where those laminated products come in, I guess, is because they're more engineered products versus solid beams, wood.
But you can use them for floor. You can use them in your floor.
Right.
You can use them as rafters. You just got to put your blocking in, but you can get longer lengths with them. I'll find I can't remember what they're called at the moment.
Right. Is that the LVCs?
No, LVL's the top.
I mean LVL, yeah.
LVL's only made for inside use. Paralam's made for exterior use.
Okay. That's what I was curious. So, all right. Well, that's cool. That's cool. It's
there's a lot.
Well, the codes. I mean, the code is what makes. I mean, honestly, if we're getting really down to the nuts and bolts, the code and knowing the code really is what makes a contractor different than a handyman in a lot of ways. I mean, we talk so much about licensures and stuff, but licensures and insurance, but ultimately to get those, then you need to know the code. That's what makes a general contractor worth their weight, is that they know the codes and they build to the code. Yeah.
Knowledge. That's what you're paying for, is knowledge.
Right.
And the engineer, those are called I-joists.
Okay.
And they come in different heights. Now, some of them have an 1.5 inch top flange, 1.5 inch bottom flange. Then you have some that go all the way up to a 3.5 inch top flange and bottom flange.
Gotcha.
See? So the wider the flange, the higher the web, the more load it can take. And here, the longest lengths of lumber, like a 2x12. I think we can get them up 26 foot long. We can get an I-joist 40 foot long.
So that's where you see these. Then going back to our log house discussion, in the past couple of weeks was, you think if you go to these large log houses rather that sit on top of the mountain, you see out forever. Look at the big vaulted ceilings. That's where they're able to get all that strength from, with the big wide open vaulted ceilings. Then,
yeah, they can in that situation.
Okay,
and they will carry the load, and the I-joists are engineered for you. So you take your floor plans in and to your local building supply, and they will do the loads for you, the calculations. So when they come on the job, they'll already have them. They'll not be cut to length,
okay,
but they'll be cut within 2 foot.
So you get number 1 goes here, number 2 goes here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. I like that.
And but it's very good as long as they're installed correctly, because we have gone back and found them where they weren't.
Well, that's the case with anything, right?
Yep.
I mean, even a 2x4 is only good if it's installed correctly. So and we see that all the time, right? You see that, when it comes to like framing, whether it's, just a simple framing, roughed out framing, using a 2x4, how many times do you see it nailed incorrectly or not not the right spacing or nailed in the wrong place? I mean, there's all sorts of stuff as simple as that is, right? As far as putting 2 pieces of wood together, there's correct ways and incorrect ways.
That's right. And for every product, most of the I-joists and stuff like that, I could be wrong. And I think a lot of them was designed in Canada.
Right. That makes sense. So, well, cool. I'll tell you what, we'll take another break, and then I'm going to get into what I was going to ask you about, because I kind of like the codes, though. It's kind of fun to talk about codes. Codes are important. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come right back right after this. Thanks for listening to us.
Yep.
Obviously, by listening to this podcast, you see the value of All About Home Construction. Well, by joining our listener supporter community, you're not just tuning in, you're standing with us as we are able to support and fuel our passions of the construction industry. As a listener supporter, you'll enjoy exclusive perks, including hearing your name, or maybe even your business name, on our show. So please go to our Spotify website. The link will be in the show notes, and join. You can join for as little as $1 one-time fee, $1 a month, $5 a month, whatever you think you can afford. Every single penny helps to keep this show going as we can continue to grow and do lots more things. Thanks a lot. And again, more importantly, thank you for listening to this. That's right. Welcome back to All About Home Construction here on WATA. Again, thanks to all of our listeners out there, and trying a little bit of Zoom call this morning with Randy as we try to expand and, just test the waters so we can get some more guests in. And, that's just the way it goes here on All About Home Construction. So, in our final couple or 10 minutes or so, I want to ask you a couple minutes about garages. So, the question came up of in the planning stage about attached versus detached garages. What's the difference in terms of from your building's perspective? Now, I mean, obviously one's attached to the house, one's not. But in terms of building, in terms of going back to the codes, what's the difference in the two?
Actually, not much. Okay, because they're still put on slab. You have to follow the codes for slab. And one thing that the codes look at, they don't come out call it, but like building inspection departments, well, think about in the 80s, 70s and 80s, the ranch style houses was built with garages, okay? Excuse me, everybody took the garage door down, put a 6-foot French door in it, made a living area out of it.
House, yep.
Okay, so, well, I'm never going to make a living area out of that, whether it's attached or detached. Mm-hmm. Okay. But the point of it is the codes address it just in case you ever do.
So it doesn't look at it as a separate building. It looks at it as part of the house.
Correct. Gotcha. And either way you do it, you still have to frame it out of the same material. Yep, your foundation is the same. It is attached the same. The R value is the same. The rafters system, the R value is the same. Okay.
Gotcha.
So that way it can be used, for a living area down the road. The only difference is that there's no bathroom. You can run plumbing in it, but most of the time it's a hose bib so you can wash it out.
Mm-hmm. Right. That makes sense. Well, that's what I've always been curious about. But also, though, like as a garage, though, do you have to worry about carbon monoxide coming from cars? Is there any kind of like special ventilation or stuff you got to worry about?
Not really, because you got, let's say, a 1-car garage still has to have a 3.0 door in it.
Okay.
And most people now, every door is automatic. So you get in, start your car up, hit the button, the door comes up. So there's really not that much in it.
Okay. Well, I just wasn't sure. I mean, and also you've got to worry about you're storing a lawnmower in there and gas and stuff like that. Fumes. That's I was just curious if that played a role at all into this kind of into the code and into the rules for garages.
Now, garages are generally never heated. Okay. Mm-hmm. For that reason alone. You can put electric hot water heater out there, but you couldn't put a gas.
Okay, because of the
open flame.
Because of the being open flame and potential risk of getting into fumes and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, if that's the case, then there's really, I guess, in terms of building, there's no advantage of building a detached garage versus an attached garage, right? I mean,
it depends on your lot and location.
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, I'm just thinking like an attached garage. Essentially, you don't have to build one wall. I mean, because you're already building the outside wall of the house.
Right.
So if you attach it, you're
but you're still going to frame a wall up anyhow.
Okay.
Okay. And that'll take I would, and the reason for that is now we have a double barrier for fire. Okay.
That's okay. That's where my brain was going before but now it makes sense, right? Is you've got that extra. Okay, that makes total sense.
And it's just, we do not have a lot of garage fires with a lot of people, but it does happen from time to time. Right. And when it comes to your family, a simple wall with that extra insulation in there, because you got to put a fire rating in that garage, and that's 5/8. It's not like a commercial building where you have to have 2 layers, but you put 1 layer in.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. That's what I was curious. I would imagine though, aesthetically, it probably goes both ways. Depends on what the buyer wants, right? I mean, it would kind of make your house, if it's attached, it's going to give the appearance of a larger house.
Correct.
But a detached garage, you could fix it up where it has more or different curb appeal. So I guess that's really eye of the beholder.
Well, it depends on where you locate it. Because see, now if you detach it, you can put a small deck in between.
Right.
And do your patio, your grilling and stuff in between the house. Then another thing too is you can go ahead and carry your roof on out and still have your detached garage with your patio still there, so you can cook out in the rain.
Now you got an outdoor kitchen.
Well, correct.
An outdoor TV section. That's what I'm waiting on. Outdoor living space. That's okay. That's we're gonna have to do a show on outdoor living spaces, though. That's a great idea, by the way. I'm all about some outdoor living spaces. But yeah, so garages. Does the code always call for concrete floors, or is that just? I mean, I know why we put concrete floors in. You're driving a car on it, but I always wondered if that's part of the actual code.
I have been on a wood floor garage, but it's in older buildings, and just for money's sake, maintenance, stuff like that. Because here in the mountains, there's garage walls that might be 12 foot high.
Right.
So there you have to go with I-joists, steel I-joists, and pans. See, and pour that.
Well, I mean, that's my thing. Like obviously as a garage, I don't know what you would go or what you would want to do besides concrete. But I'm going back to what we were saying before about the codes in the slabs, monolithic slabs. If you're not careful, I guess essentially the floor of the garage is just that, a monolithic slab, right?
Yep.
So you'd have to follow those codes in terms of insulated underneath and all the other.
Well, think about this though. If you were to go with a wood floor, no matter what it be, treated or whatever, now you stand a chance. Let's say your car drips a little oil.
Oh, it's gonna, yeah.
So now it's going to drip on the boards.
Yeah.
Okay. What happens if it drips in a crack?
It's going to follow its way down. Yep.
Yeah. And over a period of time, let's say nothing might ever happen, but you got that old clunker that you have to put a quart of oil in it every week.
Yep.
That oil ain't being burnt. It's leaking. Mm-hmm. Now you've created a fire hazard.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And,
yeah. I mean, I don't see any advantages of putting anything except for concrete.
At least, there you go again. You can follow the codes on a monolithic slab. If you go with a wood floor, you'll have to have it engineered.
Right. Yeah, there'd be extra cost all the way around.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess could you just keep it dirt or like gravel?
Not on new construction.
Okay.
You can do your barn like that, but you couldn't do it on a house.
Makes sense. I mean, I don't know why you would, other than to save money. I'm just trying to think outside the box. Like,
you got homeowners that won't try anything.
Right.
But, they don't want to, if they don't want to obey the codes, then there ain't any use even trying to work for them.
Right. Right. No, that makes total sense. So, well, it's cool. It's cool. Well, there we go. Detached, attached doesn't make much difference in terms of construction.
But one thing I want to tell homeowners is make sure you know the elevation of your garage for the correct garage doors, and your 3.0 door.
But yeah, I see what you're saying, because you may end up getting the wrong one.
Correct. And you can't. And on new construction, the building inspection wants to see the stickers on the windows or on the glass or the door for the wind load. Okay. Now, you can't go to here in Boone, you cannot go to your local hardware store and buy a regular old steel door like we used to, because it's only rated for 90 mile an hour.
Nice. Well, there we go. Thank you for listening to All About Home Construction on the podcast. We record this live every Saturday on AM 1450 and FM 96.5 WATA in Boone, North Carolina. You can become a supporter by supporting this with a small monthly donation, and that'll help sustain future episodes. You can do that for as little as 99 cents a month, and that'll go a long way to help our show. Do that, you get your name or your company name included in our advertisements. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.